Hello friends, you're welcome to my channel. Thank you for tuning this channel today. So today I'll be teaching how to cut this beautiful gown you're seeing on the screen. The button in front and the collar is a tie collar all together, and the side zip. I have some measurement that I'll be using to cut this gown today. Then I have bust here measurement. The bust measurement here is 44 inches plus 1 inch. Then I have a under bust circumference 38 inches plus 1 inch. Then I have a full length circumference, that is the round measurement. This circumference I'm talking about is the round measurement, the same thing with the bust round. Because there will be button on it, so I will not want the gown to be too tight, so that when you button, you will not begin to have your button will not be open like this when you're walking on the road. So that is why I'm adding this 1 inch to make it balance very well. Let's begin to cut the gown now. So this is the fabric that I will be using for this gown, and it's 3 yards. So I will hold my fabric like this. This is the good side, and I will fold it this way. I'll fold it in a triangle form. Are you seeing now? Then I will begin to calculate my measurement first. Now the half length is 40 inches plus 1, that is 41 inches. So I will place my tape. Let me shift it down a bit. So I will place my tape like this and divide that 41 into 4 places. Then I will check 41 and minus the half length, which is the 19 inches. I will shift it like this, 19 inches. My hand is still at that point where I will get the 41 and check the length. If it's okay with the full length, then I will go ahead and start marking. That is how you calculate the flay when you fold it first before you start marking, if it's okay with your measurements. Half length circumference, where you're going to join the flay to, is 41 inches, 40 plus 1 inch. So if you divide it into 4, that will give us 10 1/4. So you check this area like this, will give me 10 1/4. You mark chalk like this, and you move to this upper part that is very sharp like this. Place your tape from this upper part and check where you mark chalk. Mine is 16 inches. That's 16 inches, and your tape is still here at the upper part. You mark the 16 inches like this. So see the 16 inches, you mark it round. Use your own measurement to calculate it. Let me shift the fabric a little. And make sure you pin your fabric like this. Now I'm going to place my tape from where I mark this 41 round. I will minus the half length from it. You know, I'm cutting the flay first to save the fabric. I can use pieces to cut the upper part. So when you're cutting flay, it's better you secure your flay first before you cut the upper part. So I will minus the half length. From shoulder to half length is 19 inches. So I will place my tape. The length of this gown 8, so I'm going to make it 49. Then I will add my seam allowance. You can add 2 inches, you can add 1.5 inches. So I'm adding 2 inches. So I will hold my 19 like this. See the way I'm holding the tape, 19 inches. Then I will place it. So I'm using 51 now altogether minus 19 inches. I'll keep marking the 51. I'll place 19 and mark it the 51. Then I'm going to cut it out. So after cutting the first one, you fold again the same way, the same method. I'm to use this one now. When you finish folding, you use this one to place it on top. So now that both of them are equal, I'm going to cut it out front and back, the same thing I'm using, because the gown, there is no zipper at the back, it has a side zip. And remember, when you're cutting this half length circumference, this round here, I did not add seam allowance to it. I did not add seam allowance to it because it's flare. So when you cut it and open it, you find out that you have allowance to sew. Except you need more allowance, you can add allowance to it. So I'm going to cut it out the same way. So I will keep this aside now, both front and back, and move to the upper part. Now you can use these pieces to cut the upper part, so it's better to get your flake out before you cut the upper part. So now the next thing I will do now is to cut the collar. You know, it's like a bow tie that you're going to tie it. So I will fold my fabric. I'm using the whole of this length, the length of this fabric. The length of this fabric is 60, is by 60. So I'm using the whole of the length. I'll fold it into two like this. So I will just use 3.5 inches to cut the collar. So I'm going to fold 3.5 inches into two like this, because I will use I'm going to fold it into two to lining it. So 3.5 inches, that is, if you open it, what you have will be 7 inches. So I make sure that all is 3.5 inches all through, like this. Then I will cut it out. Then the length, you have 60. So see what I have now. If I open it like this, it's 7 inches. I see now. So I will keep it aside first. So cut the upper part now. I will use the paper to draft it so that you can see clearly, because my chalk is not showing on this fabric very well. So let me use paper to draft it. Now how to fold your paper, you just fold the biggest measurement. In this case, the biggest measurement is the bust measurement. So you check the bust and you add extra, you can add 3 inches minus the button allowance. This one that I folded here is the button allowance. I use 2 inches to fold it. You know the front has the button, so I fold 2 inches. By the time I will hem it like this, I will hem 1/2 inch inside. So what I will have left will be 1.5 inches. So this is my button allowance now. So see this line here now, this is my starting point. All my measurement is going to start from this point. So I will place my tape from the starting point, and I'm going to mark my bust line. So my bust line here is 12 inches. So I'm going to mark 12.5 like this, 1/2 inch to join the upper part, and I will leave my tape like that. I'm going to mark my under bust. My under bust is 16 inches. I will mark 16.5 like this, and I will still leave my tape like that and mark my half length. My half length is 19 inches. I will mark 19 inches like this. In the 19 inches, I'm going to mark 1 inch for seam allowance. That is all I'm using here is 20 inches like this. I will connect all my lines together. So I finished connecting my lines together now. The next thing I will mark now is the neck width. I would like to use 3 inches for the neck width. So I'm going to mark the neck width 3 inches like this. You know, I folded button allowance. So to mark the neck depth, you can use a 3 inches, you can use 3.5 inches. So let me use a 3 inches first to mark the neck depth. Then I will connect the round together like this. I see now with the button allowance folded. You see the way I marked it on top of the button allowance. You don't open the button allowance like this before you cut the neck. If not, the material will not be equal again. So I will place my tape now to mark my shoulder. The shoulder of this person is 18 inches. 18 inches divided by 2. That will give me 9 inches. Come down by 1 inch to mark my shoulder slope. I'm going to connect it from the neckline to the shoulder slope, the 1 inch like this. So from this point now, I'll mark my armhole. I will be using a armhole depth of 9 inches. So I'm going to mark it like this. I'm going to connect it like this, 9 inches. So automatically, this line, the armhole line, has become my upper bust line now. So I will check this 18 inches. Sorry, this shoulder, I'm supposed to add ½ inch to it. So it's 9.5. Sorry for that. So 9.5, I connect it to the shoulder slope. So from that 9.5, I will place it on the upper bust. That's the 9.5 inches like this. So I'm going to connect a straight line like so. Then I will measure a 1 inch arrow. I will shoot out a 1 inch arrow. This 1 inch arrow is to guide me to connect my hand to curve the armhole like this. So I will leave the front, I will leave the armhole like this first. Now I'm going to place my tape to the bust line. The bust circumference is 44 inches. For this kind of shirt gown, normal bust measurement, that is fitted measurement, is 44 inches. I added 1 inch to it, so I will be using 45 inches divided by 4. 45 inches instead of 44. So I will mark like this. And I will add my 1.5 inch for seam allowance. I don't need much allowance for this kind of dress. Now the under bust circumference is 38 inches. 38 inches divided by 4 plus 1 inch. So I'll be using 9.75 inch to mark it. That is 39 inches. Then I'll add my seam allowance, 1.5 inch like this. So my dart will pass through this area. The under bust, I will add 1 inch for that. But the bust line, I did not add any dart allowance. So the half length circumference is 40 inches. 40 inches plus 1 inch. So I will be using 41 divided by 4. So I'm marking 10, 1/4. Then I will add my seam allowance, 1.5 inch. Then I will add my dart allowance, 1 inch like this. So I'm going to connect it now from my bust to my under bust and connect it to my half length circumference. I will extend it to the seam allowance, the 1 inch at the down. Now the upper bust of this person is 42 inches. So 42 inches plus 1 inch, I'll be using 43 inches. That is 10 3/4 to mark the upper bust like this. Then I will add my seam allowance 1 inch. So I'm going to connect from upper bust to the normal bust. Having done that, the next thing to mark now will be my dart. This is my under bust. The nipple to nipple of this person is 8 inches. Now if you zoom that picture you're seeing on the screen, the style that I'm cutting now, you find out that there is no dart on that particular one because of the kind of fabric they used to make that gown. If you have that kind of fabric and you love the flower design that is there and you don't want that to disturb it, you can do without that. Let the dress be fitted, it will still fit you perfectly. But see the kind of fabric I'm using for this gown, I don't have any special design on it, so I want to add that to my own. So if you don't want to add that, you can just mark it like this without the dart 1 inch allowance that I added under bust and half length. You can do without the dart allowance if you don't want to add that. But if you want to add that, you follow this pattern. I hope it's clear now. So let me begin to mark the dart now. So the dart, I'm supposed to use 8 inches to cut it. But because of button allowance, I'll be using a 10 to cut. That is 5 inches to 2. It's supposed to be 4 inches. But because of button, I'm using 5 inches. That is 10 inches. Because when you will fix button, you're going to button it like this, I think. So one will lap one like this. So the space that will lap each other, you will lose 1 inch from it. So that is why I am adding 1 inch for the dart. So I will go ahead and mark my 5 inches like this. I will mark 5 inches and connect it down. Now from the dart, now from the bust, you come down by 1.5 inch like this. You don't allow your dart to get to the bust line. So this is where my dart will stop, 1 inch. So I'm going to mark that 5 inches and connect it to that point like this. So this is my front dart. I will now begin to mark the dart now, 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch this way. Then I will connect it. I'll blend it to the dart line. So this is my front dart. Now I want to add a bust dart. There's something we'll call a bust dart to make the dress fit perfectly. So it's going to be on this bust line. This is where I will add the bust dart to it. Let me extend the dart line to the bust line, but I will not allow my dart to get to this point. It's going to stop at this 1.5 inches. So from this dart line, I will mark 1 inch like this. I'll just cross it like this. So this bust dart that I'm going to add now will stop at this 1 inch before the bust. So I will mark 1 inch this way, 1 inch this way. So I'm going to connect it. So I'm going to connect it like this and stop at that 1 inch. I'll connect it like so. This is my bust dart now. If I sew it like this, I will have a bust dart. Now to make this work quick, I will leave this bust dart now. I'll quickly cut the dress out. My button allowance is folded. Now we just cut the neck out like this and the shoulder slope, and cut my armhole like this. So my paper was not enough, so I just added some. I just join the paper now. So from this point I will add 2 inches to it. These 2 inches that I used to mark this dart, now when I sew it I will lose 2 inches from the length, so I'm going to replace it back and I will connect it to this length line. I see now from this dart line I find a way to blend my hand like this to the normal length. This is how you do it so that you will not lose the allowance from the fabric. So I'm going to cut it out now. So I want to cut the back now. I also folded some allowance, 1 inch allowance. This is 1 inch allowance. So whenever I want my dress to fit well, even there is no zipper because it's going to be a side zip on this gown, but still I've added allowance for the zip shape. So this is my starting point. This line here is my starting point. So I place my tape and I mark my bust length 12 inches. I marked 12.5 under bust line, this one here 16 inches. I mark 16.5. Now the half length at the back is 17.5 inches for this person. So I just mark 18.5, 1 inch to sew up and down. So the next thing I will mark now is my neck width. The same 3 inches that I use for the neck width, I'm going to mark 3 inches like this. Then I will come to the depth. I will mark 1 inch because it's a collar neck. I'm going to connect it like this with the allowance folded. The 1 inch allowance is folded. Shoulder. Now I will mark my shoulder 9.5 inches. The same thing that I use at the front. So I will mark my shoulder slope like this and I will connect it like so. I will mark the armhole depth 9 inches, which will also serve as my upper bust. I'm going to connect it like this. Then the same shoulder that I marked at the up, I'm going to mark it here, and I will rule a straight line to connect it together like this. I will now mark my armhole shape. Now I remember something. I wanted to use the front to cut the back, but it didn't work for me that way. So let me remove my front armhole shape. Now I'm going to divide this armhole into 2. The midpoint of the armhole. This is the front. I just remembered this now. Then I will take away 3/4 inch. For a slim person, you can take away 1/2 inch from it. I will connect it to the shoulder line like this. Then I will blend it in to the armhole area. So this is my front armhole shape. I'll quickly remove it. Sorry for that. Then I will still continue with the back. Now I haven't done this, the armhole shape. I'm going to mark the back. The bust circumference is 44 plus 1 inch, that is 45 inches. So divided by 2, I'm going to mark like this. Then I will add my 1.5 inch seam allowance. While the upper bust is 42 inches plus 1, that is 43 inches. I'm going to mark like this, divided by 4. I will add my 1.5 inch seam allowance. Then I will connect it like this. I'll come to the under bust, that is 38 plus 1 inch. So I will mark it, divided by 4. Then I will add my 1.5 seam allowance. Because of that, I'm going to add 1 inch for that. I will connect it like this. My half length circumference is 40 inches plus 1, that is 41. I will mark 41 divided by 4. Then I will add my 1.5 seam allowance. I'm going to add 1 inch allowance for that. I will connect it together like this. So the next thing to mark now is my dart. I will use my nipple to nipple which is 8 inches divided by 2 to give me 4 inches. I'll add half inch to it to make it 9. Now the front dart I added 1 inch to it because of the button, but here I am using our normal way of marking that, just half inch. And go ahead and mark it to the half length like this, and I will rule a straight line, connect it to the bust like so. Now the back dart, you allow it to get to the bust, but the front dart, you don't allow it to get to the bust because of the breast. But back, you don't have anything that will disturb that here. So I'll go ahead and mark my half inch dart. I'll take away half inch this way, half inch this way. I will mark half inch this way, half inch this way. Then I will connect it to the bust line like this. The same thing to this side. So this is my back dart now. I'm going to open this allowance at the back now to mark my zipper board, the zip shape. I normally do it from 9 inches for tall people, for short people 8 inches. So I'm using 9 for this person. So from this 9, I'm going to take away half inch. I will keep marking half inch till down, half inch till down. Then I'm going to connect it because it's half length, so you allow it to get to the down. Then from this 9 inches, I will place my tape like this and blend it to the neck. You stop before the neckline. So I see now, this is the zipper board. To make this dress sit well, by the side, I'll take away 1 inch like this. I'll just mark 1 inch and I will blend it to the normal length like this to make the dress sit perfectly. So I will cut it out. I will fold the allowance like this and cut the neck out. Since I didn't remove the 1 inch by the side in front, I can place this one now to remove it. The one to this size now is 1 inch. I will blend it in to the normal length. So I will cut it out like so. So I'm going to transfer it to the fabric. I will go to the machine. When I finish transferring to the fabric, I will sew the dart in, the bust dart and the center dart. I will come back to show you what's next to do. The sleeve length here is 10 inches. So I'm going to fold it down like this with 2 inches to hem it down. So after folding it down like this, I will mark 11.5 inches now to cut the sleeve. That I'm running out of fabric already, so I'll just go ahead and mark my sleeve hole like this. If you don't know how to cut a basic sleeve, you can check it out on my channel. So the round sleeve, the upper round sleeve is 18 inches divided by 2. Then I will add seam allowance 1 inch, 1.5. You can add 1.5 if you have enough allowance. So the down round sleeve is 15 inches. The down round sleeve is 15.5. I will go ahead and mark and add my seam allowance. I'll just cut it out like this. Because of the fabric, I'm managing the material, so I will trim it down again. So this shape is okay for me. I will notch the upper part, then I will notch the down part also like this. So I will open it up like so. When cutting this sleeve shape, make sure you place the 2 sleeves like this together. Let the front kiss the front, or if you're facing the back together, let the 2 back face each other like that. So I will mark, this is my center line, this is my center line. I will mark this 3/4 of an inch. I'll cut it out like this. If you're a beginner, you can check on my channel how to cut a proper sleeve. So I'm going to use it to cut the second sleeve now. How to cut, now that I've taken away this front shape, know that this side will be the front. I'm going to place it like this. I'm not going to fold it into two again because I've already cut this part. So I'm going to open the remaining fabric like this and place it to cut the second sleeve like so. So I will pick the back side like this. I will close this my back shape, the 1 inch. Then I will hold my dart like this and sew it the same way that I mark the dart. I'm going to sew the two back like that. Then I will come to the front now. I'm going to sew the dart like this the same way that I marked, and sew the bust dart the same way that I marked. So I just finished sewing the dart, the bust dart the same way that I marked, and the center dart front. So see the front, see the way it is. The shape of the dart is out now. And the button allowance, I added Estelle. So you don't you calculate the allowance and cut the Estelle in a way that when you hem it like this, the Estelle will not remain here, it won't be showing here. So see how I got my Estelle, so that when I will do button, the fabric will be firm. If you don't like, if the Estelle is too soft that you don't like, you can use a cloth gum that is strong. Or another thing that you can do, when to do the buttonhole, you add gum stay at the back like this and do buttonhole on top to make it firm, just like that. Because I like working with Estelle, so that I will not have a rumple in front. So this is the two front. I also hem the button allowance to this other side. So this is what I have. I'm going to stitch on it. I will take it to the machine and stitch on it like this. I see now. I will stitch on it. The same thing to this side. Then this is the back. I've also joined the center back, the 1 inch allowance that I added, and I sewed the dart in. I also iron it. It's very smooth. So after stitching on this front button allowance, I'm going to join the shoulder like this, and I will come back to show you what's next to do. So you see, I just finished joining the shoulder now, and I place my upper part like this. I just wear it on my body to check. At this point, you can check if the neck is too high, like you want the collar to come down. You can also trim it down. You'll be the one to take that decision. You know, I use the neck depth 3 inches to cut this one. So I'm going to trim it down a little to 3.5 or 4 inches, because I want it to come down a little for me. So I will just hold the two fronts like this now. I'll place it like so, you see. So I can step it down with 1 inch or 1/2 inch. So because I want the collar to come down a little, I don't want it to be too high. So I'm going to step it down with 1 inch like so. So make sure it's equal. Check the down part of it. Make sure they are equal. So I'm going to cut the 1 inch like this. It don't allow you to get to the shoulder line because the width is okay for me. I can now calculate the collar. So I will fold my fabric into two like this. I see now, because it's a both side collar, and I will place it like this. Okay, when you fold the collar into two like this, let me check properly. Measure the neck round, just measure it. What I have here, the neck round is 20 inches. With the button allowance, I have 20 inches. So 20 inches divided by 2, that will give me 10 inches. I'm going to mark 10 inches this way. Now, that is from the center back to the front, where the collar will stop, will be this 3.5 inches, the width that I use. So all of these parts now will carry 3.5 inches. I'm going to mark it like this. Then this side will be the part to tie. So from this point now, I can now reduce this collar. I'll be the one to decide. I'm going to use 2 inches to mark this collar now. At the down part, 2 inches. I'll connect it like this, 2 inches. So from this 3.5, I'm going to connect my hand like this to blend it into this 2 inches like this. That is the collar. This part will be big, this part will be small. Then at this point, I'm going to give it a V shape. I'll measure from this point, I'll mark 1 inch. I'm going to slant it this way to give it a V shape like this. So you see, then I will cut my 2 inches out. So I'm going to blend my hand in to the normal allowance like this. And I'm going to notch it. That 10 inches, I'm going to notch it like this. So if I open it, see what I have. See the shape. If I open it, it's like this. So I will add a S-tail to it from this part to this part. That is this 20 inches. Where I notch, I'm going to add my S-tail and gum it full like this, while I will leave this side plain like that. So see what I have now. I gum the S-tail from this neckline to this neckline. Now I'm going to mark my back, center, front. I'll fold it into 2 and I will mark like this. So this is the center back, while this is the front where the collar will stop. Where the S-tail stop is where the collar will stop. So I will turn it to the back side now. So I will just go to the machine and sew this place and sew it to this line that I notch. I will stop and come to this part. I'm going to sew it like this and stop. So I finished sewing it. I'm going to notch this part now, and I will use my, you can use your safety pin. I'm going to turn it like this. I'll push it out like so. So you see how it is now. See where I stop my sewing. I've already turned this part now, so I'm going to iron it before fixing it. So I finished ironing it now. See, so I will pick the neck like this, I see now, and I will sew from the back. This is the back of the dress. I'm going to hold this back like this. This place that I notch where my sewing stop, I'm going to hold it like this and I will sew it. Let me use pin to secure it for you to see. So I will use my pin to secure it like this now. I'll hold the collar one side and with the dress. can start from this part again to check equal now. So when I finish pinning it like this, I'll take it to the machine and sew like this. Then I will now turn it to this part and fold in this one to cover it and top stitch on top. Because of the way the collar is, this is how it should be, because when you fold it like this, it's going to cover where you top stitch. So to hide the allowance, I'm going to sew it like this first and turn this one to cover it. Now before doing that, I can use my iron to fold this part now in 1/2 inch like this, and I make sure I iron it. So I'm going to iron it all through. So when you flip it over this way to top stitch, you will not have any issue. You just top stitch it like that. So I'm through with the collar now. See how it is. So you now iron it, make it firm, and fold your collar. The collar, how many inches you want to fold to the back side? We use a 3.5 to cut, and we'll have 1 inch that is at the back. So see what I have now, very beautiful. The next thing to do now, I'm going to join the flare. I'll pick the front like this. I'll pick one side like this, and I will join it to the back. You see that they are equal. I'll join it to the back like this, and I will also join the front. Now before joining the front, this is the reason why we added the zipper by the side. So anytime you have to fix button for female dress, it's normal that you fix it at the right hand side. That is the button, the right hand will lap the left hand side. Are you seeing like this? So you lap it this way. This will be my button allowance. I will use pin to secure it. This is the reason why we have to add zipper by the side, because this place is going to be close together. So I will pick the second flare like this, and I will attach it to the front like so. I will go to the machine and sew it. So I just finished joining the back flare, the front and back. See how the front is now. So at this point, I can now fix my sleeve. I'm going to top stitch the down part of the sleeve. See how it is. I added a S-tail to it. To make it firm. So I'm going to run thread on it, the two sleeve. Then I will fix it. The way the sleeve is, the front shape and the back shape is not the same. So you're going to trace the one that suits the front like this now. If I check like this now, this is the front sleeve. This one here is the front sleeve. So you know that this sleeve now will fix this side for it to face the front armhole. So I'm going to use pin to secure it just for you to see. Now I finished checking my shoulder. I'll use pin to secure it just like this and fix it this way and turn it to the back. So automatically this side now will rhyme, this part will rhyme. Now that I've picked this side correctly, so the second part now will rhyme automatically. So I'll just pin it all through like this. So I'm through with the joining of the sleeve the way I explained. So I close the two sides with the allowance because of time. I close the two sides now. So see how the front is. Now at this point, I can now check my measurements and calculate it with the button allowance. But let me tell you something, you can cut this dress and sew this dress without the sizing. I just sized it now and it's okay for me, but I'm going to still add the sizing. That will be another video. So let me show you how I calculate my measurements perfectly. I hold the center front like this, and I place my tape to the bust line. I just take my measurements round like this. I check it round like this. You know, the measurement I added 1 inch while I was cutting because it's button. Now I'm still going to add another 1 inch to my button. Are you seeing? So this 1 inch. So the other 1 inch that I added stopped at this 45. So I added another 1 inch, half inch this way, half inch that way, to help me for the button allowance, because I'm going to button it like this, just the way I place it here. I'm going to button like this. So half inch will be gone this way, half inch the other way. So that is how I calculated my measurements, both the bust circumference and the under bust circumference and the half length circumference. So after the other 1 inch, I added another 1 inch again for the button to lap. That is where I will fix the button and the button hole to pass. So see what I have now. At this point, you can weave it the inside, the seam allowance, you weave it. Let me take it to the mannequin to wear for you to see the beauty of this gown. But before I take it to the mannequin, I'm going to mark the button now. So this is the side I will mark the button hole. So from this collar, from this upper part, I'm going to measure 3 inches like this. 3 inches is where I will mark the button hole. So my button will start at this 3 inches. If you want button to also get, if you want your own button to start here, I've done something like that. That is immediately after the collar, you can fix one button before you start the second one here. But I don't want button to start here since the collar will be here for me to tie. So I'm starting my button from the collar point, 3 inches I marked. So I will measure again 3 inches. If you want the space to be very large, 3 inches is okay. Or you can use 3.5, but I normally use 3 inches to make my button lap very well. So I will mark again 3 inches. So these are the lines for my buttonhole now. 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches. I'm going to mark 4 buttonholes. I'll do 4 buttonholes, yeah. So see how the front is now. Now I just use my pin to pin it. Later I will fix the button. You can now hold the collar like this to tie, the way the style is. You hold the collar like this. I see now. So see how beautiful the gown is. Beautiful the collar is. I'm going to hem the down part of it. See the down part of it. Thank you so very much for watching. See you in my next video. Please make sure you like for me. Thank you. God bless you.